You started? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Welcome to Sri Sri Radha Govinda Temple tonight. It's a beautiful day today, and thanks for visiting us. Right now, we have offering done to Sri Sri Radha Govinda, and pretty soon curtains will open and we'll be also offering Aarti. Today's program is sponsored by Gopi family, Tirtha family and Ambika family. Unfortunately, Gopi's nephew, Leon Nice Douglas, passed away on February 12th. So in his memory, we will be reading Bhagavad Gita today. He was a cousin of Tirtha and Ambika and rest of family members. When I speak of Gopi, Tirtha, Ambika, including Leon, my family, Trivedi family, we don't consider as a separate family. It's a spiritual connection or whatever you call, but year after year, Gopi Mataji served Sri Sri Radha Govinda as a pujari. And Mother Tirtha and Ambika, under the auspices of Devdat Prabhu, and he was teaching this dance to these two girls, and year after year they perform for the pleasure of Shri Jagannath Swami during Rath Yatra, as well as so many other entertainment programs. Not only here, but everywhere they went. And very intricate pastimes of Lord Jagannath. They used to dance, and they got the Devadeva Prabhu trained them. He moved to California or someplace in West Coast. After that, we don't see that kind of activity. But still, whenever required, these girls are always ready to help us. So, behalf of this family, we have been offering opulent feast to Sri Sri Radha Govinda right now. But pretty soon when the curtains open, be ready with the incense, ghee lamp, water, hanky, if you have flower or flower petals, and chamar or peacock feather, whatever you have, you can offer it to Sri Sri Radha Govinda. This is a virtual program. Radha Govinda is with you today. You have invited them. They are in your cell phone, they are on your computer, they are on television, whichever way you are watching them. But since they are there, you should also respect them. So the conch shell is blown. Pretty soon we will be opening the curtain and offering the Aarti. And like I said, please chant with me if possible. Shri Radha Govinda Deva Ki. We'll be singing the Gaur Aarti, which is a Sandhya Aarti for evening. We offer the Aarti to Sri Sri Radha Govinda. And that time we sing these words, Ki Bajayo Jaya Gaura Chande. So those who knows the words, they can follow me. And also, you have paraphernalia with you. Please try to offer, look at the pujari and follow the sequence. If you don't have any paraphernalia in your heart, you can do the Mansi Seva. Mansi is just in the mind. You have the incense, the flower, ghee lamp, and etc., etc. So let's start now. Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitarini. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Ki bajayo jaya Gaurachande Arti ko shobhan. Ki bajayo jaya Gaurachande Arti ko shobhan. Jhanvi Tatvan Jagman Lobha. Jhanvi Tatvan Jagman Lobha. Dakshinitai Chand Bam Gadadhar Dakshinitai Chand श्याम गदाधर निकटे अद्वैत श्रेणी वास छत्र दारा निकटे अद्वैत श्रेणी वास छत्र दारा बसी আছে গৌরাচরণ रत्न सिंहासन बसी আছে গৌরাচরণ रत्न सिंहासन आरती करेन ब्रह्मा आदि देवगणे आरती करेन ब्रह्मा आदि देवगणे नर हरि आदि कोरे चामर धुलाय नर हरि आदि कोरे चामर धुलाय संजय मुकुंद बासु घोष आदि गाय संजय मुकुंद बासु घोष आदि गाय शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल शंखा बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाला मधुर मृदंगा बाजे परम रसाला शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल बहु कोटि चंद्र जीनी बदन उज्ज्वल बहु कोटि चंद्र जीनी बदन उज्ज्वल गल देशे वनमाला कोरे जलमाला गल देशे वनमाला कोरे जलमाला शिव शुक नारदा प्रेम गदागदा शिव शुक नारदा प्रेम गदागदा भक्ति विनोद देखे गोरार संपादा भक्ति विनोद देखे गोरार संपादा गौरांग आरती शोभा जग जन मन लोभा गौरांग आरती शोभा जग जन मन लोभा जग जन मन लोभा जग जन मन लोभा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jai Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jai Gauranita, 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 Jai Gauranita. Jai Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan. गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन। जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन। प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। श्री राधा गोविंद देव की, श्री प्रभुपाद की। नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र सता भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नमाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। अंतर मायापुर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समावेश भक्त वृंद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदे all good is to assemble devotees, all good is to assemble devotees, all good is to assemble devotees, all good is to grow and go around again. So we will be chanting Lord Narasimha prayer that protects everyone, and especially for today's occasion we need to chant this prayer. Please join us. At home, if you have the harmonium or mridanga, kartal, any other instrument, whatever you play, at least you can clap and sing the arti along with me, and that will benefit all of us. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayina. Praladadayina. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankan khalayin. Shilatankan khalayin. इतो नरसिंहो परितो नरसिंहो इतो नरसिंहो परितो नरसिंहो यथा यतो मिततो नरसिंहो यतो यतो मिततो नरसिंहो बहिर्नरसिंहो हृदय नरसिंहो बहिर्नरसिंहो हृदय नरसिंहो नरसिंहां गदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये नरसिंहां गदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव कर कमल वरे नखाम अद्भुत श्रृंगार दालिक हिरण्यकशिपु कानुभृंगा केशवद्रुता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Nrsingadev, 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 Jai Nrsingadev. Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prahlad Maharaj. नरसिंह देव भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्री राधा गोविंद देव की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. So today we are here in memory of Leonis Douglas, who left his body on 12th of February. When we read Bhagavad Gita proves that the soul is eternal. Only the body perishes. But we cannot say even that, because the body is actually made up of 5 elements. Those Panch Mahabhuta, or the basic 5 elements, are the earth, water, ether, air, etc. So, Prithvi, Pani, Tej, Vayu, Akash. So fire goes back into fire, and earth goes back into earth, ether goes back into ether, and air goes back into air. Water goes back into water. So according to Chatushloki Bhagavatam, those 5 elements are also eternal. So nothing is perishes. And soul keeps going. And according to desire of the soul may get another body and continues its journey according to the desire. If you live life like a human being, you may come back as a human being. But being a human being, if you live like a dog, chances are that you may come back as a dog. So this is a very important message, and in order to understand Bhagavad Gita, we have to get the blessings from the Guru Parampara. So let's pray for a while. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utupadakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhana Argunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrushubhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2 specially, contents of the Gita summarized. When someone dies, we usually read from chapter 2. And the reason is because this particular event, when some beloved person leaves you, and you know that you will never ever see him, you will never able to talk to him again, you will never be able to communicate with him in any way. And that's a very sad situation. So that is why we have to read message given by Lord Sri Krishna. that we get little consolation that no, Leon needs the glass has never left. He's always with us. Because as a spirit soul, he cannot die. And he didn't die. So when we hear this news given by Krishna, then we rejoice his presence. So, in chapter 2, Bhagavan says, Krishna says, Kutastva kashmaram midam vishame samupasthitam anarijustamasvargyam akirti karamarjunam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. So, Arjun's problem was just like whatever we're going through today in case of when Leon left his body. Same way Arjuna was feeling that it would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superior. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. So, even the idea of killing, someone dying, it makes you think over again. And he says, now do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them? If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. So, Arjuna was not sure about this game of life and death. And that is why in this situation he is asking Krishna to help. And he says, Karpanya doshopa hatasvabhava pruchhami tam dharma sammudachetam yashreyasannishchitam bruhitam me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. So actually, from this particular verse, Bhagavad Gita started. Because Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between a teacher and a student. The student should recognize the teacher and accept the position of a student. Then only teacher will advise you. So here, that's what Arjuna is doing. He is surrendering to Krishna and he is accepting the position as a student and accepting Krishna as a teacher. And he says, now I am confused about my duty and I have lost all composure because miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Very wonderful beginning. Shishyasteham shadimam tam prapannam. He says, you tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Srila Prabhupada explains, by nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity. And therefore, it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexity of life, which happens without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such a perplexity of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. So first thing in the morning when you come, 4 o'clock, to attend the Mangala Arati. Have you ever come, Mataji, to attend Mangala Arati? You should come tomorrow morning. We'll keep the doors open for you. So 4:30 they offer the Arati and they sing a wonderful Arati. Sansar Dava Navalida Loka Tranaya Kana Guna Ganatvam Praptasya Kalyan Guna Navasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam. So they compare this material world as a forest fire. No one wants the fire and yet it takes place. And we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve perplexities of life and to understand the science of solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in a disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not therefore remain in the material perplexity, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purpose of this verse. So Arjun keeps going and he says, I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. As you know, the entire family, Gopi, Tirtha, and Ambika, and even including the children. So losing a nephew or a cousin is a sad thing. And whatever Arjuna is feeling, the family is feeling the same way. I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel this, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on this earth with sovereignty like the demigods in the heaven. You cannot exchange your pain or sorrows with a little bit of happiness or anything like that. So, Sanjay says that Evam muktva rushikesham gudakesha parantapa nayotsiti govindam muktva trushnim babuva. Evam muktva rushikesham gudakesha parantapa nayotsiti govindam uktva tushnim babhuvaha. Sanjay said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. And then what happened? Tamu acha Rishikesha prasaniva bharata senior mayur madhye vishandantim bachara. O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to grief-stricken Arjuna. So now Krishna has no choice. Why? Because first of all he said, you are my guru, you are my spiritual master, I'm ignorant, I don't know anything. Om Agnanatimirindasya Gnananjana Shalaka Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So this is the beginning of any Vedic literature. We read this particular prayer before reading any other scriptures. So now Krishna is talking to Arjuna and he's chastising him for being in this kind of condition. He says, Ashochanan Pragnavadashu Vasuse Gatasuna Gatasuscha Nanu Shochanti Pandita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. This is an amazing statement Krishna has made. He says, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. So, yes, we loved our nephew, we loved our cousin, but it's not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. And he is trying to explain what he is talking about. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So we just talk about being eternal. All the five elements are eternal, according to Chatushloki. The soul is eternal. So the byproduct or the combination of those five elements and the soul, which we call you, me, with the different names. But we never die. We are eternal. That's what he's trying to say. Never there was a time when I did not exist. Krishna said, I was always there. Nor you. There was no any time you never existed. Right? You always existed. Nor all these kings. He's talking to Arjuna, and that's why kings were present. But right now, so many people in this temple also appear, and we are talking about every living entity. They always existed. Nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. There will not be any time when we will not be able to exist. And that's why the scripture says, Kathopanishad, Nityo Nityanam Chetasat Chetananam. Right? The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as the learned, but factually have poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that He Himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and the Lord is eternally and maintainer of the individual living being, both in the condition and the liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme individual person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all they did not exist as individuals in past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in past, and that individuality will continue in the future without interruption. So the message is that Leon's existence will always be there, and is individually existed in the past and individually will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for any any reason for anyone. So now, very important statement he's making, and he says, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhira tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into the another body at the time of death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So these are the words we have to understand very clearly, because Krishna already proved that as an embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth. You can see a child is born today and in a few days started walking and crawling on the floor and eventually become a boy, and eventually the boy grows and grows and becomes a young man or young woman. So the soul similarly passes into another body. Just like a little child turns into a boy and into a man, similarly, the soul is also similarly passes into another body at the time of death. There are 8,400,000 species of life. Today you may be a human being, tomorrow you may be a demigod, who knows? Or, like I said before, if you live like a dog, then chances are that you become a dog. If you live like a snake, then you become a snake. Right? So, your soul is actually taking different shapes and transforming it from one body to the other. So that is a migration from one body to another body. Since every living is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrated to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma, for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for the changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby regenerating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in neither case, there was no cause for lamentation. So same thing we are asking this family that we should not be worried about what has happened. And again, he is giving an example and trying to explain. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha Agama paino nityam stansti titiksha bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and the distress, and their appearances in the due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception, ocean of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So Krishna is given the example. For example, this afternoon was great. It was so sunny and beautiful when I woke up this morning, right? When you come out of the building and walk around the block, you feel good. You don't even feel like I saw some teenagers walking with a t-shirt and all that. And all of a sudden in my cell phone, there was alert that around 4 o'clock there is some blizzard and some vision is going to be zero and a lot of wind is going to be there and the weather will be changing. So then when I came to the temple, I had to put on so many shirts on top of so many layers, and this is how it came. So the summer changes into winter, winter changes into summer. So this is the example is giving that the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and the disappearance in due course are like the appearances and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. What happened to the summer? All of a sudden winter, right now. So this is the thing that the death and life is like that. It is a cycle. That you experience life right now, then eventually you will have to experience the death. And once you experience the death, life is certain for you. So this is the cycle and we have to accept that. O best among men, the person who is not disturbed by the happiness and distress and is steady in both in the certain eligible for liberation. So as being a devotee, if you want to be liberated, then we should not be disturbed when there is happiness around, or we should not be disturbed when there is unhappiness around. When someone dies, naturally everybody is unhappy. But that unhappiness is non-permanent. It's not going to last forever. Something good will happen and you will have good news and you will smile again. Now here is the most powerful sentence he is trying to talk. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata, ubhayoropi drashtantam, nastvanos tatpadarshibhi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance. And of the eternal soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So, we just imagine that the body dies and that's the end of it. But no. So far as soul is concerned, it will take another body soon. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. The soul is imperishable and it cannot be actually killed. The material body of indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living being is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. So Krishna's job was to pull out Arjuna from this kind of grief. He was worried about death and life and all that. So he's giving him the right kind of lesson. And he says, neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks is slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. So this whole idea of dying is actually not recognized, but because he says, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन नायं भूत्वा भविता न भूयः अजो नित्यश्वासतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So, this is the point we have to make certain and know that person doesn't die. His body simply perishes. O Parth, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Again, he is just giving a beautiful example here. He says, the clothes that we are wearing right now, when you go home, then you are going to change it. You will take your overcoat and all your shoes and socks and everything out, right? And put it in the laundry box. And then you will be putting your nightgown, right? And then you will sleep. But then again, when you wake up morning and you have to go to work, you are dressed up with the new clothes now. So similarly, our body is compared with those kind of clothes. And he says, Vasansi jenani yatha vihaya navani gunyati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jenan yani sanyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, taking out the old one, putting the new ones. The soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So when someone dies, this is what you have to think. Well, his body was old, his body was almost useless. Why useless? Because whatever he had to achieve, he already achieved. Now what is the use of keeping that body anymore? So Krishna takes that body away and gives him the new body. So very beautiful example is giving and trying to consolate us, right? Change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous exchange of body, which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. So we just say that process of growing body, right? So here it says, the moral scientists do not believe in existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous changes of body which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has been explained in the previous verse. They already said about the Janma Jara Vyadhi Mrityu. Janma means birth, right? And Jara. Jara is you in a gradual, when you grow, you become old. And the Vyadhi is when you get sick, or in the pandemic, maybe you become victim of COVID or whatever. And then death. Janma, Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu. So these are the different stages and source of cycles. So transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of super soul. The super soul fulfills the desire of atomic soul as one friend fulfills desire of another. The Vedas like Mundak Upanishad as well as the Shvetashvara Upanishad compare the soul and the super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. Sometimes when you look at the tree, there is a branch and then you see two birds are sitting there. Very close, you see two birds are sitting. They are friendly birds. And it is compared to our soul and the super soul. In our heart, just like a bird sitting on a branch, these two, soul and the super soul, they are sitting in our heart. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. So you see, the one bird is just continuously trying to peel the skin of the fruit, trying to eat, taste it, enjoy it. And at the same time, the second bird is just keep looking at that bird, and that bird is supervising the soul because he is the super soul. So, of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree. The eating bird is captivated by the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of the friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird and the Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is a servant. Forgetfulness of the relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another or from body to another. The jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as a supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntarily surrendering unto Krishna for instructions, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all the lamentation. Both the Mundak Upanishad and the Shvetashvara Upanishad confirm this. So, this is what it is. Right now you may be in anxiety, you may be missing somebody, you may feel sorry, but if you want to enlighten yourself through Krishna consciousness, through Prabhupada, through the prayer or through the reading of Bhagavad Gita, then we have to understand this particular example which is given, a very simple example of a bird sitting on a tree. In our heart, we have soul and we also have super soul. So, when the soul starts looking at the super soul for the direction and submitting himself as a disciple, then the super soul will guide you, he will give you consolations, he will make you happy, he can make you smile. So here it says, although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with the anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in same way or other he turns his face to his friend, who is the Lord and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all kind of anxieties. So Arjuna has now turned his face toward his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. So once you turn to Krishna, once you turn to Prabhupada, once you read this explanation which is given and understand it wholeheartedly, then there is no anxiety, there is no lamentation. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill his bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from the various bodily activities. So this is one of the things that sometimes Ashwamedh Yagna and all kind of fire sacrifices were done previously by chanting mantras. And they used to put the living entities like horses. They will throw the horse in the fire, but the horse may come out as a human being. He will be promoted to heavenly planet. So what's the use of keeping his body as a horse only? But by chanting Om Tacham Yora Munimai Gadum Yagyaya Gadum Yagnapade Devir Swastirastunam Urdvam Jigashu Beshasham Shanno Ashtudvipade Sham Chatushpade Swaha Swaha Swaha. They pray for the poor horse and they say, please give this horse a new body. Make him a demigod. Make him a human being, whatever. But not living this kind of life, which is a very lower kind of life. So, when someone dies, actually it's a mercy of Krishna that is been pulled out from the lower kind of class or lower kind of life and is given the higher kind of class and higher kind of life. So, Arjuna is advised herewith by Lord not to lament for the bodily changes of his old grandfather and the teacher. So, eventually they are all going to die. So why lament one who is already dead? He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to the higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. So this is just stay a few minutes. We are going to close at 7:30. So this is very important because in pandemic things are, I live right in front of Brooklyn Hospital and many times I hear whole day, whole night, the ambulance keeps coming, one by one, bringing the bodies, taking the body out of the hospital and all. So this is a very common to experience a death of our beloved relatives, or cousin, brother, father, mother, friend, right? So we have to understand this particular philosophy, that the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon. How do you know that the soul cannot be killed? So he is giving the qualities of the souls. Now he is explaining in detail. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally same. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot sin even by the most powerful microscope. Why? Because if you take your hair, and there is a tip of the hair, the end of the hair, and when you cut that tip of the hair in 10,000 parts, that's the size of the soul. Just touch your hair, look at the end of it, and then imagine you are cutting it into 10,000 parts. That is the size of the soul. It's so minute that you cannot even see that. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In the other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experiment and knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious, that also is statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally exchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite supreme soul. The supreme soul is infinite and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul being unchangeable can never become equal to infinite soul or the supreme personality of Godhead. This concept is repeatedly in Vedas different ways just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul, in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. Many times, like we say, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyava, Nastyava, Nastyava. Right? We repeat, keep repeat, right? 2-3 times. Why I have to tell you 2-3 times? So that you can remember. So here it says that repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. If I just tell you once, then you may forget or you may not understand, or whatever understanding, 5%, 10%, 90%, but 100% if you want to remember and understand, then I have to keep repeating. So every verse that I have been reading since the beginning has that kind of understanding that we understand this subject matter thoroughly. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptom of the life is always born and dies forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty arm. Let's you believe that, oh, soul also dies. But so what? You don't have to lament, right? Because jatasya hi dhruva mrityu, mrityu dhruvam janma mritasya ja, tasmat parihararthe natvam shochum arasi. Jatasya hi dhruva mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha, tasmat parihararthe natvam shochutum arhasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. Have you ever seen anybody who never died? There is nobody around here like that. There was a story in life of Lord Buddha that people knew that he is like a realized person. And one woman was crying and crying and crying. My son died, my son died, my son died. So people says, why don't you go to this self-realized person, He may calm you down, he may give you some kind of consolation. Because this way you're going to die after your son. So do us a favor and see this self-realized person. So just like Prabhupada is sitting in meditation, Lord Buddha was sitting there, and this woman went there, and she says, Lord, can you help us? So what? He said, my son died. He said, yes. First of all, he says, you have to do me a favor. You get a piece of bread from somewhere where no one died. You approach somebody or go to the house of somebody and say, did anybody died in this family? Ever? Not 5 years before, 50 years before, 100 years before. So they say yes. So he says, then don't accept the bread from them. We go to other house. I want you the bread from the person from the house where nobody died. So she went to 100 places, and everybody they say, yeah, my son died, my brother died, my cousin died, my nephew died, my grandfather died, my friend died. Everybody had someone died. So eventually after visiting 100 homes, she didn't get any piece of bread, and she came back to Lord Buddha. And Buddha figured out right away, because she came without any bread. So she said, at least through the experience, she realized that jatasya dhruva mrityu. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. There is not a situation where nobody dies. Everybody has to die. And after that, one is sure to take birth again. And therefore, in unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So this is the story that Lord Buddha somehow taught this woman, that you should not be lamenting because someone is died. One has to take birth according to one's activities of life. And after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, one is going through one cycle of birth and death after another without liberation. This cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. The battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of Supreme, was an inevitable event. And to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should he be afraid of aggravated at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts, of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. So, this is the preaching given by Lord Sri Krishna. This is something we cannot avoid. Last week, I remember it was Saturday or something like that, and I was busy doing my duties, and a woman came with a little child. She was a grandmother, and his son was there. The three people came, and I gave them the garland of Srila Prabhupada, and she smiled, and I gave them some prasadam. The boy was happy to receive the sweets, and we talked a little while. The next day the man called and he says, see, my mother was there yesterday. I said, yes, she passed away. I couldn't believe. This Monday, the coming Monday, we are going to do a ceremony right here in her memory. But she looked okay. There was no any complaint. She didn't look, tired or sick or suffering anyway. She was full of life. She was happy with a grandchild. And when I gave them the sweets and the garland and all that, they were all so happy. And they went home, and that night she's sleeping, and only God knows what happened. No one knew because she was all by herself. And when they tried to call her, no one replied. When they knocked the door, no one opened. And she died in the sleep or heart attack or whatever. No one knows the reason for that. But she just passed away. So thing is that this is a day-to-day problem, and we don't have proper understanding through Bhagavad Gita, then naturally it's going to hurt us. Yes, we love our beloved people, our friends, family members, but the thing is that this is something that we cannot avoid. And in order to prepare from our lamentation, we have to read Bhagavad Gita and keep reading Bhagavad Gita. Right now, because of lack of time, we have to stop right here. But we will continue reading Bhagavad Gita. And please attend the classes. If you miss it, you can go to YouTube or Facebook and try to understand this philosophy behind this. Srila Prabhupada and Lord Shri Krishna is so merciful to us that they have given us everything. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. But you know how to stop this? Thank you, Prabhu.